I'm a sniper. Just get me close, baby.
Is it the point of a sniper that you don't have to get close? I'm a sniper. Just get me close, baby.
That's so fucking true. If he was a hand-to-hand expert, I'm an MMA fighter. Just get me close.
I'm a sniper.
Get me
Just
really far away.
Medium to long distance. Doesn't quite sound as good. Hello everyone and welcome to Eternally Screening, where today we're going to be doing the 4th ever episode of Sloppy Sequels, and this time we're going to be looking at the 2018 Predator, directed by and written by Shane Black, who at this point in his career was sort of flying high on a comeback after Iron Man 3 broke $1 billion at the box office, and just 2 years prior with the other guys getting huge critical success, if not much commercial success. It kind of seemed like the natural conclusion that he should revisit Predator, having written the original film.
Hi there, Future Adam here. Shane Black didn't actually write the original Predator, but was rather brought on to the set to do rewrites. Producer John Davis says, Shane was a really great writer who had just written this great script called Lethal Weapon. We wanted him to do a rewrite on the Predator script, so he put it in the movie because he's an actor, and we got him down there and we asked him to do a rewrite, and he said he was an actor in the movie and not a writer. So he was the first person we killed. He got killed 7 minutes into the movie. How much he was actually credited with in the final script is not publicly known at this time. Anyway, back to the video.
And even starred in it, if I'm not mistaken.
He did indeed, yeah.
And he's returning to it in this year of, this new time of franchises and remakes, and it's called The Predator, which kind of implies like, okay, this is like the new official
definitive
way, right?
Yeah.
And this film came out, it didn't make a lot of money, and people immediately forgot about it. It stars Boyd Holbrook and Jacob Tremblay. When I try and describe the plot of this film, it's going to sound a little bit ridiculous, because as we all know, The Predator is a film about a bunch of commandos in a jungle, and an alien comes down to try and kill them, and they've got to fight him off. And it's really that simple, It's kind of like one of those 80s, 90s action classics that has a really sort of simple setup but does the most with it. The first film is incredibly tightly written, whereas this film is not so much a confined space film like the original Predator. They're set in the jungle, the alien comes down, and it's almost, even though it's set outside, it's almost like a little bit of a bottle movie, because you've got it feels like a confined environment.
Yeah, it's very claustrophobic. Even though they're in the space of an entire jungle, different spaces feel indistinguishable from one another, which heightens the sense of them being trapped in with some unknown force.
Yeah, I guess because the alien's it's so advanced, it's almost omnipresent. It makes it feel like a bottle film, right?
Yes.
Whereas this film is the story of some kind of military commando who is on a mission that gets interrupted by an alien landing.
Damn, this guy's eating shit. Bloody hell.
Oh God, my ribs are in my throat.
Jesus. He's just been impaled by his sniper. Why? I love that he felt the need to go out of camo back into it just for drama.
Yeah, you got to flex a little bit. The Predator is basically a massive cunt, because he just comes to Earth and he's mega decked out, and he's got all this sick sci-fi pew, 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 shit, and he's just hunting. Basically, it'd be like me going back in time with the fucking Iron Man suit with a trillion AK-47s attached to my wrist and just massacring some Stone Age guys.
Yeah. But
he's such a loser that he manages to die in every film.
Yeah, but also he's a loser because he feels the need to be oh, that's grim. He feels the need to be invisible as well.
Yeah,
he's got all this high-tech shit, and yet he's oh, bro.
And Prey makes him an even bigger loser, because he literally goes to fucking murder Native Americans.
Yeah,
it's
true.
They've literally got a bow, and you still lose. He encounters it, steals an invisibility ball, as much as I can, describe it, becomes a rogue fugitive, gets arrested, then his autistic son is pursued by the Predator, and he and a group of ragtag felons, military
felons,
break out of a bus try and save his son, and then if it sounds like I'm just kind of on a stream of conscious, like just sort of saying things, that's kind of what the film is like. That would be my reaction. Oh, did you see that?
This is goofy as shit.
Yeah, it's sort of like, you can see what they're trying to do, right? It's supposed to be like the connecting of the storylines. And it's like, wow, like everything's come together.
Oh my god, she just shot herself in the foot with a fucking trank. Fucking idiot.
I hate it when that happens.
Oh, apparently the trank only works in that one area of the body.
That's local anaesthetic.
Sorry.
Fucking hell.
She just broke all of her bones. And then another alien comes, but it's bigger, and various things transpire. The final conclusion of the film is that the alien has come to Earth to steal his son's autism, which
yes,
is incredible, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It really feels like Shane Black and his friend who helped him co-write the script were sat in a room one day doing mountains of coke and just kept sort of feeding off each other, like, oh yeah, and then what if this happened? Oh yeah, and then what if this happened? Oh dude, that's crazy. And then they just left it in the film. That's kind of the impression. Like, the story of this film is kind of the main problem, if you ask me.
Oh yeah, easily. It feels completely incomprehensible, lurching wildly, kind of with its structure and pacing from piece to piece. And it's also kind of difficult to get a gauge of who we're supposed to be following, because even though we start with Boyd Holbrook's character, who, yeah, like you say, a commando of some description interrupted by the Predator's landing. And
He
then
just goes rogue.
Yeah. Then he's on a bus in a compound with a bunch of his other fellow military felons who are all crazy and in some kind of
all have a quirk
special way.
To define them.
And they're entirely defined by that. Like Keegan-Michael Key's character is the guy that says funny things.
Yeah.
And
love that character. You have the guy who's got Tourette's.
Yeah.
You have like the weirdo quiet guy, the
Yeah.
religious guy. And then you have the guy who's just crazy.
Yeah.
The guy from Moonlight, who I can't remember the name
Yes,
of.
he's like, I tried to kill myself. And then that kind of comes back at the end. But really, there's very little characterization beyond those surface level things. But because of the kind of scattergun nature of the pacing and structuring, you kind of get introduced to what you think is our main character, and really he is, but then you kind of spend a bunch of time away from him, and it's lurching to, like, it goes to the science lab, it spends time with the kid, and you don't really get like a real proper amount of time early on to settle in with who this character is beyond the fact that he is Commando Man.
There's a sort of eldritch horror to the way this film is edited, because it's really sort of hard to pin down what is so terrifying and like just massively unappealing about
like uncanny
it. Like the way the film lingers on certain things and then brushes over other things. I know this film did go through pretty intense reshoots and edits after it got pretty poor reception in screenings, so I imagine that must be a part of it. But there is just a kind of unknowable horror to whatever happened to this film in the edit. It really seems like it's sort of a mosaic of various ideas that had been existed. I wonder if there was like something else that it was originally supposed to be, and then they sort of tried to change it.
Okay.
Because it really gives that vibe. Like, there's a pretty major character in the film who eventually teams up with our main ragtag group of villains. Heroes. Who is a sort of female scientist. And the way the character is introduced is really, really strange.
Yes.
She's literally, the camera sort of zooms in on her as she's in the park, and they just go, "Mom, you're coming with us." And she's like, "Oh, okay."
Dr. Brackett. I understand you enjoy stargazing. I'm gonna take care of your dog. Would you come with me, please?
And then she's like in the villain's sort of laboratory where they've captured this first alien and they're doing experiments and trying to figure out what it is. And it's like, there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it's so weird.
What it feels like to me, and it instantly caught me off guard, it feels like we've had a scene of her day up until that point, and then suddenly it all flips. But instead, that scene was deleted, and all you get is her turning around. In my imagined end of the scene is her being like having someone tap on her shoulder and she turns around and then suddenly it cuts to someone else's perspective. It's like the idea of being thrust into someone else's shoes through a kind of secondary lens, for want of a better phrase. Like, it's such an unassuming introduction for what then becomes maybe the second or third most essential character in the whole film.
Yeah, she's just introduced with no context. There's no like, and I'm not saying every character has to have like a deep backstory. It's just like the way the film does it is.
It implies that there was something more. It implies that there is a lack of something that we were supposed to get. That's the crucial.
I think the only reason I'm harping on this point is because it just seems weirdly indicative of the film's general sort of sloppiness.
All this woman's done so far is make that face.
Welcome.
Just this.
I'm Sean Keyes. I heard you basically wrote the book on evolutionary biology.
You basically wrote the book on evolutionary biology.
That can't be true.
You've basically written the book on physics. Evolutionary biology is a huge field.
Yeah, I know.
But at least I finally know something about this character.
She still has one facial expression.
I'm vaguely concerned and bemused. Oh, now she's doing it.
No, she's doing another one. Do you like that her inside one has no sleeves?
Why do you call it the predator?
Oh, yeah. Why?
It's to make it look more feminine,
You get
probably.
the sexy lab. Well, look, the woman there has also got one with no sleeves. It's like, if you're going to be a woman in this lab, you must be sexy.
You must at least show a little bit of arm skin.
She's got a long neck. That's really accentuated.
You've got a long ass neck.
Look how big her neck is.
Why would you keep shooting? Fucking idiots. Jesus.
That was some bad CGI blood splatter there.
True.
Me trying on my new fit before I go to the club. Air axes.
All she's doing is these faces.
So on paper, I think the structure of this film could look normal, but the way the film actually presents itself to us is, it just nothing feels quite right. It is this kind of strange feeling throughout that something has gone wrong in the making of this film, and because on paper it follows a pretty traditional action film structure, but the way, I think particularly in the final act of the film, the way characters are sort of killed off, it feels very abrupt, despite the fact the film is quite boring and long for how short it actually is up until that point.
It has a lot of downtime.
Yeah, and you still sort of like the way the characters are killed off. It feels like there's like this missing middle bit that we did get, but did we? It's just like the way they're all getting killed off in the forest. It's like, oh, all right, am I supposed to?
We're saying goodbye to characters we've had like this long-standing sort of appreciation for and like bond with. But in fact, this is probably the most time we've had with them on screen without them saying quips or being like archetypes. This is like, the first time some of these characters feel like real characters is when they're dying. Yeah. Which feels very, it just feels like a huge missed opportunity, but it also feels very perfunctory in that we're supposed to, now cry, this character's dead. But, how are we supposed to if we've had no time
And there is
whatsoever
like one particularly embarrassing moment with Key's character and the sort of Tourette's guy, for lack of a better thing, because I can't remember his character's name.
Is it Thomas Jane? That's his name,
Right,
Thomas Jane. Yeah.
I mean, there's just this sort of weird, like, sentimental goodbye that's executed in one of the most unintentionally, I think, comedic ways.
Yeah.
Very, very bad.
Oh,
Owie.
love it. Oh, the fake blood there was trash. I've been disemboweled.
You're a brother to me. Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
How is that not a meme edit already? That's so good.
It was so
That was
goofy.
fucking awesome.
It was so goofy, man. I'm sorry, brother.
Oh my god.
And I guess that kind of brings us on to the action of the film, because the final part of the film is this kind of weird, cheap throwback to the original Predator. There's this setup where the alien's like, I'm going to get you. So they all run away into the woods. So it's kind of like, this is the callback to the original Predator. And it felt weird because it was really the only point in the film where it had actually thrown itself back to that vibe. Like the rest of the film seemed to be completely like did not care about it. Like wasn't even trying to ape the original.
Yeah.
Which in a way is respectable.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fine. In fact, that's the sort of thing I would prefer.
It's just it has to be done well, and this isn't done well basically. But the final action section is also just very strangely paced out. You have this strange throwback bit, which then transitions to this wild spaceship force field scene, which then transitions to this other action set piece on the ground where they just blow the Predator up. This is my take. I think I've said this before, but I can forgive an action film for being pretty bad if it has really good action.
Yeah.
To some extent. And this film does at points have some pretty decent action-y horror stuff in it, in terms of like the way it's executed on screen.
It's not a very good camo system if it can just be shot off like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fair. That's pretty cool. Whoa! Okay. All right, that stuff was pretty high.
Yeah,
that was
pretty
good.
Here's a treat, you little shit.
Okay, good. That is good chat.
But there's never really like a whole set piece that stands out. There's literally in the whole film there's one bit that sticks in my mind, and it's the bit where the Predator stabs the guy over and over again.
Yes,
and that's like the one thing that ever stuck with me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Here we go.
There was like a. This is the one. There's like one.
Whoa! Oh, through the dick.
There's like one visual I remember, and I think it's this one. Yeah.
Fuck.
That was all I remembered. That one shot.
What of the?
Where he just stabs him,
Mate, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I particularly enjoyed the dick shot.
Of course.
Whatever.
You are obsessed with penis.
So I guess we should point out there are two predators in this film, one big, one small, and it's like a kind of race between them. Yeah, essentially, like
it's very weird. What do they say? It's like a half human one or something.
Yes, yeah. So I think the idea in this film is that they discover the predator imbues itself with the best properties of different species. One predator has assumed a bunch of traits from humans, and then there's this giant predator that's assumed traits from various other creatures instead. So hence why they're chasing Jacob Tremblay
to get his autism.
Yeah, just to deviate from the action for a second, I don't think we've really given enough attention to how bizarre the notion of trying to steal a young boy's autism truly is. And unfortunately for me, it was a detailed spoiled about this film, because I was very intrigued to watch this, and then just before I did watch it, I had that element of the story spoiled, and I can only imagine how manic my reaction would be to such information.
I think that whole thing is just the kind of the epitome of like a well-intentioned thing. Like the whole point is like, the kid's autism isn't a defect, it's like part of who he is, and like, in a way it's like, it makes him stronger in some ways. But that's what the film is trying to say. It's trying to say something sweet
that's
in a way.
Interesting, because I didn't take it in that way at all.
No, I think the whole point is like, the predator sees the kids, this... I don't really understand why he goes for the one kid. It's something like his specific kind of autism, which is really weird. He's like, this is like a sort of upgrade that I want to take. But it's kind of, it's almost like Get Out, how they all want to be black.
Right.
But obviously, Get Out is commenting on that, whereas the Predator 2018 is literally just doing it.
Yeah, it's like supposing that it's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, it would be like, imagine if instead of autism, it was something like race, and the Predator was like, I want to steal this person's blackness because then I'd be good at dancing. Like, it would just be really weird.
Yeah,
right?
It would
and
be...
if it was framed as being like, and it's all because, we're trying to make a positive message about black people.
But it would be decried by most black audiences because of how ridiculous and patronising
Right, exactly. The same with autism.
That's interesting with this, because, like you say, perhaps it is trying to get across that message. I kind of took it in a different way. I perhaps saw it from the other, more cynical side, that they were like, or how do you militarize people? Well, the stereotype around people with autism is they lack empathy. So,
Right.
like, if we remove empathy from people, then they are stronger soldiers or something like that.
But I mean,
that's what I wondered.
But that's
if the
not. I
film
don't
was
think
getting
that's what
with.
the film's message
Well,
is.
no, I'm not saying it is, but I'm also saying that I got in no way did I get the other message from it, because
No,
I think
but-
the film was so clumsy in
Yeah.
in whatever it was attempting. It did no good job at conveying any of that.
When I say that's what the film's implying, I mean I think that's what the intention was.
Yes.
But the film itself doesn't communicate.
It doesn't really
that in
justify
any
itself.
meaningful way. No.
No, and but it's also guilty of the sort of patronising quality of implying that those with autism are like automatically some kind of genius savant that is, incapable of expressing themselves on a personal level, but they're mathematic geniuses, and like he's got like an eidetic memory, he can like remember a map with like just looking at it once.
Well, and it seems
all these
the only
things.
actual instance of his autism is that he's sensitive to sound in one scene,
Right.
which never comes back throughout a lot of the noisy stuff
Yeah.
that happens throughout the rest of the film that he is close to. Famously, in a classroom, if there's like a disabled kid, you just kind of immediately abandon him. That's just like the first thing you do. There's a fire alarm, right, leave him. We're
That's
out.
so valid. That's literally the first kid they're escorting
Yeah.
out. They're like, come on, little Jacob.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to be like, I remember exactly how they were all arranged. But to my knowledge, a lot of people with, neurodivergent people, they find the whole idea of making all representations of those with autism, for example, as being somehow superheroes incredibly patronizing, because in A Stranger it's that pedestal thing again of like, you're actually a superhero. It's just like, well, you're not really treating them like a human being, and in this story they kind of are guilty of that same
Well, I do think it's frustrating
issue.
because, if you watch films, you would assume that all autistic people are like savant geniuses with eidetic memories, which I think, if I'm aware, is like a very, very, very small percentage of actual autistic people, right? So, I mean, this film doesn't do any great favours there. There aren't a great many films out there, unfortunately, that actually show much of an honest depiction of autism or Asperger's or whatever. But I think the way this film approaches it is particularly embarrassing, really. Like, I guess, briefly on the acting, there's nothing really wrong with any of the acting here.
No.
It's a kind of weird instance of a film where it seems like everybody involved is doing the actual best they can. I think Boyd Holbrook is like pretty good. Fine.
He's fine, yeah.
Does like his best action. You almost feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Watching it, because imagine being cast as like, oh, I'm going to be the main character in the next Predator film, and it's this.
Yeah.
Like that's a real bummer. Jacob Tremblay's solid, and I actually kind of like the guy. I'm forgetting his name now, but the guy from Moonlight.
Yes. I like him.
He was actually kind of a fun. The problem is every character gets about 2 minutes of character detail in the film.
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah. So he is the actor with most gravitas in this film. Like, he has a kind of certain charm to him that when he walked into a scene, I was drawn to his presence. But we really only get one meaningful scene with him and Boyd Holbrook sat talking when they've just escaped after the Predator attack at the beginning, and they're discussing like, whoa, why were you in? And he was like, he had implied that he had shot an officer, but what he'd actually done is shot himself, and that got him sectioned.
Did he live?
Say again?
The CO, the asshole you shot, did he live?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, where's he now?
You shitting me? I'm rich.
Why did you do that?
There was like a kind of a level of subtlety and nuance to that scene, because it wasn't like this crushingly depressing, like bearing my soul, or like super deep reveal that the character had been hiding something. It was more like a sort of semi-casual conversation where there was like a level of humanity to it, and a specificity that made it feel like, oh, this is a real human being having a conversation in their own terms. And that's one of the very few and far between moments I'd say that happened in the whole film.
Yeah, because they sort of try and bring it out with the key character and the guy with Tourette's, but it always rings a bit false whenever they try and pull on the heartstrings with those two, because Key's character, I mean, he's given some absolutely god awful.
Some of the
jokes to
worst
work with.
dialogue in the
Like
film.
Shane Black, it's incredible. It's an incredible fall from grace for me to see. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the other guys, but that film is really well written and has some hilarious jokes in it. Like in terms of that quippy, snappy dialogue.
Yeah.
That Shane Black sort of did first, even before Whedon, and did it really, really well. The other guys is like, a really, really well written film with some really hilarious jokes. And in this, it's like everything falls flat. I can't think of a single solitary joke that made me laugh in this film.
You shove me again, I'm gonna break your neck. Don't say that out loud.
That is a really poor attempt at witty writing.
Yeah.
I will kill you. Did I say that?
When you're standing at attention before your maker.
I always stand at attention before I make her.
This is witty dialogue written by ChatGPT.
It's the loony bus. Look at this motherfucker.
Loonies, yeah.
We're crazy.
So where is it this time?
Your mother's ass. Wait, that's that.
Such a poor
Oh,
line.
he just did the "did I say that out loud" line again. Wow, it was so funny the first time.
Nice reverse psychology. I can do that too. Don't go fuck yourself.
Ugh. Oh. God.
No.
Everything was just cringe, and it felt like someone doing a really poor impression of Shane Black's writing, as opposed to an actual script by Shane Black.
Yeah, it's strange because, like you say, it feels like his writing has kind of gone on to influence those that would popularise the kind of what is now called like the Marvel way of writing, the Marvel dialogue. And then it's like he's seen those progenitors of his, and he's gone, "Oh, that's genius! I'm going to copy that." And so it's like a sort of a redo of a redo, or like a copy of a copy.
Can I interest you in getting the fuck out of here?
Getting the fuck out of here is my middle name.
Just feels so...
Try hard.
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, when this is over, you and me, we're gonna dance.
Got my shoes all picked out.
All right.
What? He was going to shoot your son's kneecaps off a minute ago? Fuck off. This is shit.
You are one beautiful motherfucker.
I love how a synced reaction to that.
Shane Black, the hack.
You want to know if someone fucked an alien? Comprised of the deadliest species in the entire
It's our universe, right?
galaxy.
What?
Galaxy. 250 billion stars? Why go universe? Just saying.
Why did they need that exchange? Why not just say galaxy from the get-go? Perhaps it's not helped by the editing and maybe things that were left on the cutting room floor, because a lot of the jokes feel like so painfully isolated, like that they happen in a vacuum. There's the tone of the film as a whole is not one of levity. So when they add in a joke, it feels like there's just this fucking tumbleweeds blowing in the background every time it happens. It doesn't help, of course, that all of them are crushingly unfunny, but whereas even Marvel films have a general kind of lightness to them often. This isn't me just defending Marvel for no reason, but this feels worse than it, just because it's a step further divorced tonally.
Well, it's interesting because reading about the production of this film, one of the execs before the film came out said this was going to be a way to eventise the Predator franchise, which obviously never quite happened. And you can kind of see that maybe that's what he was going for. I don't know. Maybe he was just toning himself down for this film.
Maybe.
And it went wrong, or maybe he didn't care, but I find that hard to believe because the concept of the film is so elaborate that he must have put loads of thought into it.
Maybe it was the opposite. Maybe he toned himself up, and he then kind of got away from himself.
But the jokes feel so weak. There's some quite edgy jokes in the other guys.
Yeah.
There's that weird subplot, for 1 second, where Russell Crowe's dad's fucked his girlfriend, and it's like a one throwaway thing, but it's really funny, and it just happens one time, right? Whereas in this film, it's like there are some quite edgy jokes, but they're just really, really juvenile.
Yeah.
I think about the scene on the bus where to provoke the guy with Tourette's, the guy played by Key is oh, your mum sucks loads of dicks or something. And it's just ugh.
What's the difference between 5 big black guys and a joke? Baxley's mom can't take a joke.
It's strange because my brain has kind of scratched a lot of the actual content of the jokes out of my brain, but every time one came on screen, I was just angry.
It's just quite a miserable, unremarkable film, which is it's remarkable in how unremarkable it is, because, like I said, there's just this very strange thing going on where you have all this ambition, despite the fact it's based on Predator, which is an incredibly bare bones, stripped down action film.
Yeah.
It's building out the universe with all this new lore about how the Predators work and they consume people to take their, the
strongest
best parts.
aspects, yeah.
Right. And it has like way more sort of high tech sci-fi stuff with like where you see the spaceships and like all the like super high tech military gear and stuff, and it's really like much more high concept. But at the same time, if you were to watch the first Predator film and see how carefully storyboarded that is and how intricate it was, in terms of how it was put together, and the pace of Predator as well is like it's a very carefully paced film where you have this kind of sort of film of two halves where there's that final bit where Arnie's crawling through the jungle and realizes everybody's been killed, right? And then it kind of cuts this whole different film where it's just him versus the Predator. You have that like amazing pacing compared to this, which is like a mosaic of just random fucking shit that has just been pulled out of thin air and sort of assembled, almost it feels like before your eyes. It's kind of like you're seeing the editing happen.
That's a great way of putting it. That is exactly how it feels, because like you said earlier, it's kind of a hard thing to put your finger on exactly why it's bad, but I was describing while we were watching is it has this kind of push-pull effect on you. It's this kind of strange like inertia where you feel like, oh, it's building up momentum, oh, it's calmed down, and then it suddenly builds back up again. But it doesn't do it in the kind of fluid way a normal film would be paced, in which you have like maybe a burst of like action as you're beginning to kind of like get you into the film, and then it kind of slows down, give you some character time, and then build up, oh, action time. This kind of felt like little bit of character, action, little bit of character, action, and then it was kind of doing this sort of weird accordion thing, pulling you from one place to another, which is why it gave this such a distinct impression of like being edited to within an inch of its life and like plagued by reshoots, because it's just like nothing felt natural, nothing felt cohesive. And it was to a detriment of the characterization foremost. But also it meant that when we did come to the action scenes, I found that they had no weight to them.
A lot of the action in this film seems to boil down to a group of people all shooting at the Predator at the same time with very weirdly tinny gun sound effects.
Yeah, that's true.
Throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
Them all shooting at the Predator as the Predator or the Predator dog just sort of walks around and then kills someone and then runs off.
Yeah.
That felt to me at least 3 of the action scenes, and that's how they went. There's very little in the way of like an action scene is always, it has to have like high stakes and like, what makes a good action scene, right? It's like the best action scenes, like I always think of either the Casino Royale free running scene, or I think of any of the raid fight scenes, particularly in the first raid where you have this really clear geography of the entire building. And there's one aim, they want to get to the top. You can visualize it in your head in an abstract way. It's like, we're here, we want to be here, and these obstacles, we got to do all this. This scene doesn't ever really have that. The closest it has is the weird spaceship force field scene, which is an interesting concept that isn't like executed like amazingly well. But then like you never, the whole rest of the action is basically, like I said, boils down to people shooting something. And it's really boring. Think about the action scene with the dog, right? They're literally stood in like a school field.
That's actually genuinely
which is
appalling.
Like, because it's like, think about maybe the worst place you could set an action scene, in my opinion, which is just, unless you're going to do some amazing hand-to-hand stuff, on a flat surface that's really big. That's the most boring thing you can do. That's
the most boring thing you can do, for sure.
Like, look at this action scene. There's just 2 things, and they're just stood there going, pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, the dog's even moving. They're just kind of standing still.
There's nothing interesting about this. Like, why is he running
It's so
now?
static.
He could have just not done that.
Now the animal moves towards him. Did it just eat a grenade? It just made a fart noise as it blew up.
Why does the dog sound red?
Yeah, I know. Look, all the animals are predator themed, okay?
The dreads. What's that all about?
I don't know, maybe like sensory receptors?
They said it. Dreads. What's that all about?
Fucking space dog.
It's a fucking space dog.
Shut up, nerd.
Science nerd. Action needs dynamism, and it needs like a reason for it to escalate and go further into other places. And this film didn't have that until, like you say, the very end, where the predators like told him that, crucially, the predators kind of let them know, this is what I want. Give it to me. Yeah. You have this amount of time, otherwise I'll start murdering everyone. Yeah. And then the character's like, well, we don't want you to have that. That's our mission. And then so there's this kind of, there's a momentum then. There's like a real kind of drive in all of the characters to achieve, which they didn't have earlier on. And then the location is shifting. Like you have the boring kind of forest
The jungle
bit.
stuff still isn't even
The
that
forest
good,
bit's boring because it basically may as well be a straight line. And the geography is not really particularly well indicated in it because we don't really know which characters are following which characters.
Yeah, everyone's supposed to be disoriented.
Everyone's just kind of split apart, but all of the bits that they're filmed in look identical to the bit that another character who was supposed to not be with them, it was filmed in. So you have no real idea where everyone is. The predator will just turn up, shoot a hole in someone's chest, and then walk off. And that's kind of rinse and repeat.
That's predator technology.
It's going to come straight back.
It's gonna come back. You gotta catch her on the wrist.
Did he just shoot him in the head? Yes. Oh, fuck's sake. This is the dumbest shit. Oh my god, he's gone full vampire. Oh wow, that CG looks terrible.
It really does look bad, doesn't it?
Oh my god. It's only when he gets to his spaceship and then they activate the force field, which is a cool thing, which I haven't seen in any other film, where the force field is actually a physical object, like it kind of like a beam of like glass.
Off,
yeah. So he Boyd manages to get underneath it, and then so you got one character above it who jumps, and then the character whose fucking ankles get cut off.
Yeah, which is another weirdly abrupt character death.
Yes.
Yo, he's taking off!
Yo, he's taking off!
Come on.
Ooh. Why are you blindly firing at the ship that they're on?
Fucking hell, man.
All the alien needs to do is one barrel roll.
Yeah,
and
true.
they're fucked.
Someone's got to get minced. All right, we're on the top of a jet. Someone's gonna fall into an engine. All right, and it's gonna be the God-fearing guy.
There's a force field coming online. Look out!
Ah, okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, I got the type of death wrong, but I got the right guy.
Yeah. It was the kind of thing that could have been really cool in if it was used, if it was in a good film.
Yeah. It was moderately inventive, so I will give it that. And then probably the worst character death in the whole film.
Where he kamikazes himself into the vent.
Yes.
And blows up. Yeah, that was really weird.
What?
He tried to throw himself in it.
He went in the jet?
Yeah. He threw himself in.
Because, okay, we've established basically one thing about this character is that he
might be crazy.
He might be crazy, and that he wants to has tried to kill himself in the past and probably wants to do it again. So the film ends with him killing himself, and you're like, this is fucking stupid, because it's a complete Hail Mary for a start. It's like, you have no idea what your body's effect on a alien jet engine is going to be.
That's true,
you mince yourself into oblivion, and the spaceship flies into the sky.
What if it's just made of really good blades? Your body, you just become bolognese for no reason.
Exactly. There's literally, he had weapons on him. He probably could have chucked a grenade or something. They could have jammed it with a piece. We could have jammed it with a piece of metal. They could have done something. They could have come up. It's like, oh, I've got a plan. We'll jam the engine and make it crash. He doesn't tell anyone his plan. He's like, I've got you.
Yeah.
Jump straight into a fucking... Like, if I said that to you, can you imagine having that interaction with someone in real life?
I mean...
I've got you. And they're just fucking mincing yourself.
Again, it's like every other character that they build up in this film with this sort of ensemble cast thing they have going on. And then the film just feels this compulsion. It's like, we're in the last 20 minutes of the film. We've got to kill all these characters.
Yeah.
And then they just do it. It's like... that character was particularly weird. It's like you almost felt like there was maybe an arc for him.
Yes.
But the film's just like, oh shit, we're going to end the film. Bang.
Yeah,
it's like, he'll chuck himself in the event. That'll be epic. Yeah, very, very weird. And then the final show off with the Predator, when the spaceship crashes, like they just blow it up.
Yeah, it's really underwhelming.
The CGI is really bad.
It is bad. At least the first half of the movie made the correct decision to have it all at night, so you could slightly mask it.
How did she get there?
Her plan was to be invisible and then jump on his head.
Also, how did she get there? The ship was flying for ages. Like, how did she run that far? Like, it was flying through the sky for like 5 minutes of film time, whereas she was just like on a rock on set. So like, how the fuck did she get there?
Bro.
Yeah, because your gun's been so helpful now. Stay back or I'll shoot you and it'll do nothing. Why does it work now? They were shooting him in the head the whole film.
No, but he's been handicapped the whole time because he's a sniper.
Right, of course.
He can't do close quarter stuff.
He said, I'm a sniper, get me close. He's only good at using snipers at point blank range for maximum damage.
Again, the geography is kind of boring. There's kind of like they're in like a creek, aren't they?
Oh, and doesn't a character who's like off in the distance sort of arrive?
Yes, the woman arrives out of nowhere.
Yeah, despite the fact the ship's
been flying for fucking, not long, but like say 5-10 minutes. But like how much is a jet plane going in like 5 minutes? Like I'm running 30 miles in 5 minutes, no.
Yeah, she's not like some distant relative of like Mo Farah. So
yeah, exactly.
Like, how the fuck has that happened?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, and someone also shows up with the invisibility stuff. I think actually Boyd does that at one point.
He does.
He just shows up. He's like, I'm invisible, boy. The invisibility thing sort of comes and goes.
Yeah, I really don't understand the introduction of like him being able to be invisible. Yeah, like the Predator.
Oh yeah, there's at the beginning of the film he like swallows the bead, and then at one point or another you're like, he definitely pooed that out.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Yeah, we were really struggling for things to say in this film because it is just very, very strange and bizarre. Like, it is almost like a very unique experience. There's no other film I can think of, and I think the fact that it's directed by Shane Black makes it that extra bit more interesting because it's like technically, you know, if you weren't sort of the death of the author mind, you'd be like, this is the guy to make the Predator film. Yeah. And especially like, imagine having just finished like the other guys. You're like, oh wow, that was a great action comedy film. Wow, wouldn't it be great if we could have another Predator film? And actually, what ended up being the better Predator film was the Disney Plus Predator film, which they made with like Native Americans. Yeah, that's like which felt way more true to the original Predator. Yeah, it was way 100%. More enjoyable.
Way more visually creative, way more interesting, like action
characters.
sequence, way better characterization, like a lot more time spent immersing in the world, like understanding just everything about what's going on. Like everything matters in that film. Yeah, it's great for it. And I guess having watched that and seeing, a late film in a beloved 80s or 90s franchise actually be good is such a rarity. Yeah. We, felt the compulsion to come to this film, which was so maligned, and go, well, what did that do right that this does wrong? And we're answering our questions. I guess that the root of all of it really is, how did Shane Black get it all so wrong?
That's what I just don't understand, and he hasn't made a film since. No. So. And this film was also mired in some controversy about a person who worked on the film who Shane Black defended as a friend briefly, but was then implicated in a bunch of sexual assault stuff, which also didn't really help this film. But I mean, this was sort of after the film had already been made. What I want to know is why Shane Black wrote this and then said, yes, I'm going to put this out into the world, because he has to know this is terrible.
Yeah.
So either he just didn't fucking care, which is really hard to believe given, as we've gone over, like how much intricacy and insane shit he put in this film. Or, like, he just had the worst off year of his life when making this film. You know, to write and direct this, like he could not have greater creative control, right?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe he filmed the first time and he felt great. He was like, I don't know, riding high. Then, like, it comes to the day of the reshoots and the editing, and he's like been boozing it up the day before. He's hung over to shit, and he's just like this the whole time, like cut, and just like, I don't know. It kind of feels like a weird mishmash of a film made by someone on cocaine and a film made by someone who desperately needs a coffee.
Yeah.
Like, there's no kind of in between.
Yeah.
And the more I think about it, the more evident it is that this was just edited to within an inch of its life.
If you went to ChatGPT and said, write me a Shane Black like Predator film, but
and then ruin
with
it.
Marvel with Marvel jokes and mention autism, that it would write this film verbatim, word for word.
I don't think that Chat AI is that chaotic.
No, it would be better.
Yeah, it would be more streamlined. That's the real mystery here. Is it feels like each theory that we came up with didn't fit enough with other aspects of it. It felt like such a sort of set of contradictions within itself. And yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to conclude this. So if you had to rate this film, what would you give it?
It's hard. Like I said, for the positives, it has generally decent acting across the board, I would say. I don't think you can really impugn any of the actors for doing a terrible job.
Not particularly, no.
At most, it's sort of mediocre. Nothing is terrible in the acting department.
What the hell's inside there?
It's property of Project Stargazer. That's what the fuck it is.
Yeah, good take. Leave that weird laugh in.
Ma'am, I don't want to restrain you.
That acting was something so cool.
Ma'am, I don't want to restrain you. On a technical level, this film does have some pretty solid, gory moments whenever it actually decides to become violent. There's kind of like a base level of competence there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there's very little that's very good about this film. So it's sort of like a 3 out of 10, teetering on a 2.
I would teeter, dare I say.
Yeah, okay.
And I would go down to a 2. I think it is just so achingly incompetent on many levels, but it feels like that incompetence, as I've said ad nauseum to this point, is as a result of just being edited and reshot to within an inch of its life. It doesn't feel like a real movie to me. It feels like a cut and paste of...
feature-length commercial for the film.
A feature-length test screening or test edit, or like, I don't know. It feels like it like handed it to his son, or like handed it to like a sort of a newbie, a complete noob.
It's like if you took a film and then what you did is you went back and you reconstructed the entire film with takes that weren't good enough.
You fucking nail on head. That's exactly what this film is like.
It's like
Holy
all of
shit.
the off takes, including where like an extra falls over.
Do you know
in
how
the
much
background.
tension I was carrying in my back because I couldn't think of like exactly how to sum this film up? That is perfect. You've unknotted me. I'm free. Oh my god, that's a burden off me.
We're all free from the prison that is the Predator 2018, because I think having rewatched it, we are, as of this year, probably the first people to ever remember that this film exists, to be completely honest. So if you have seen The Predator 2018, let us know in the comments what you think of it. I'd be interested to see if there's any defenders out there. I'd be interested to see what your defence of it was. But if you hate it and agree with us, then smash the like button. But if you love it, smash the dislike button. Subscribe to the channel. We've got more videos coming. We've been internally screening, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.